Hello and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. On behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you joined us for our Life Science Investor Forum. Our next presentation of the day is from Dermata Therapeutics. Please note you may submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides, and you can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings by clicking Book a Meeting in the top toolbar. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Jerry Prohl. He's the Chairman, President, and Chief Executive Officer of Dermata Therapeutics, which trades on NASDAQ under the symbol DRMA. Welcome back, Jerry.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. And looking forward to talking a little bit more about Dermata, specifically about the strategic shift we're in the process of making. Before I get into the presentation, obviously, we're a public company. I will be making some forward-looking statements, so I refer you to our SEC filings. We have a pretty experienced management team. I've been in the business for about 35 years, a lot in both U.S. and international marketing. Carrie Von Hoos is our CFO, and she's been our CFO for about 3 years now, but been in the industry probably about 25 years. Maria Munero is our head of regulatory affairs. I work with Maria back at Santoris, where she worked as our head of regulatory. And then Chris Nardo. Chris actually, prior to coming to Dermata, was at Allergan Pharmaceuticals, where he oversaw the development of multiple dermatology products, including Botox. So a lot of experience in the dermatology space. As far as our board of directors, everybody on our board has been involved with both building small biotech companies and ultimately leading to successful exits. I will point out a couple folks on the board as it relates to our transition from an RX-focused product to an OTC-focused product. David Hale and Mary Fisher were both involved with Skin Medica. David was chairman of the board of Skin Medica. Mary Fisher was CEO. They built Skin Medica up into a fairly substantial company and sold it to AbbVie, and AbbVie currently markets their products. And then Mary Fisher is currently CEO of Color Science. They're also in the skincare area. So a lot of good experience on our board, both in the prescription, but also more importantly, in the over-the-counter market. As I mentioned, our pivot is from prescription to over-the-counter. We were developing our product, which was a freshwater sponge, you can see here, for a once-weekly treatment of acne. We had completed a phase 2B study and successfully completed our first phase 3 study with very good statistically significant results. As we stepped back and we did a little deeper dive in looking at the market, what we found was that there were a lot of patients or consumers that were actually going to OTC products first before they actually moved to RX products. In fact, about 70% of the patients will actually explore OTC acne products for at least up to a year before they actually go to see a dermatologist. And some of the other data we've seen would indicate that while the OTC acne market continues to grow, the prescription acne market is actually declining. That's really for a number of reasons, mainly having to do with, number one, insurance and reimbursement. We know that most insurance companies for new RX acne products will put them on tier 3 or tier 4. They'll do step edits, they'll do prior authorizations, and they really will force a patient to go to either over-the-counter products, multiple usually, or generic products before ever getting a new branded RX product. So that makes it even more difficult to get reimbursement for your product, and it makes it more difficult for the patients to gain access. The over-the-counter market obviously is continuing to grow, and it's very large, extremely large market, and one that we think we can really capitalize on with our once-weekly acne kit, which we expect to launch middle of next year. As a prescription product, it was probably going to take us around 4 or 5 years to complete the second phase 3, to complete the 9-month extension study, put the NDA together, and then typically a 12-month review by the FDA of your NDA. So it's a very lengthy process, and we felt like making the shift to OTC would be a much better option for us. There are three things that really drove this. Number one, as I mentioned, speed. There's really no regulatory hurdles for us. We'll combine our Spongilla product with an OTC-approved acne product in a kit. So there's no approval from the FDA. We can move forward as we're developing the kit. We can go out there and start selling it middle of next year. There are really no development constraints. We don't have to do any additional work. The OTC monographed products are already approved to treat acne. And we can make pretty quick innovation also because of the OTC approved products. We can do kit initially for acne, but we're certainly looking at other kits potentially for things like psoriasis, seborrheic dermatitis, et cetera. And obviously quicker time to revenue. We'll start generating revenue middle of next year versus, like I said, in 4 or 5 years. The second thing was cost. Obviously, the development to do prescription pharmaceuticals has gotten more and more expensive. You have to do a very large study. Our phase 3 second study would have been 580 patients. It would have been over a 12-week period, but then we had to roll those patients into a 9-month extension study. Again, that was somewhere around 2 to 2.5 years to complete that, and very expensive as things are continuing to increase in the prescription drug market. We don't need a sales force to do what we're doing. We can go direct to consumer. Many products are out there direct to consumer. Ours will be very differentiated with a once weekly acne kit. It'll be what we think will be the only once weekly acne kit out there. And certainly we'll be able to price it much more attractively for patients. They can either pay out of pocket if they have, let's say, an HSA account or plan, or their parents have an HSA plan. They could actually use that money to pay for an OTC acne kit. And then accessibility. Obviously, the patients are going to be able to go right onto our website. They can buy the product directly from us. It'll be very easy. There's no prescription needed. There's no insurance needed. And they'll be able to get personalized care. Size of the markets, as I said, are very large. The acne market's about 50 million patients. It's a very large market, and as I said, it's continuing to grow among teenagers, folks in their 20s and 30s. About 80% of adolescents actually develop acne. About 64% of young adults, 20 to 29, have acne, and actually 43% of adults 30 to 39 have acne. So we're seeing even more acne later in the 20s and 30s, in addition to obviously in your teen years. The other two markets that are very attractive to us are psoriasis. Most of the psoriasis is mild to moderate. There's obviously a number of very large products for more moderate to severe psoriasis. Those are biologics. They're typically reserved for a patient that has much more extensive disease. What we're really talking about is the ability to put together a kit to treat more mild patients where they have spot psoriasis, maybe on their elbows, their knees. They don't want to go on a biologic, but there are a few really OTC products available that are effective, and we think we will be able to develop a kit that will be very effective. And then the last area is seborrheic dermatitis. Certainly, it's an area that really reduces self-esteem in patients. Pretty significant market opportunity. And again, there are OTC products that are approved for seborrheic dermatitis, maybe not that effective, but combine them with our Spongilla technology, we think we can have a very effective product. So what are the OTC monograph products for acne and then for psoriasis and seborrheic dermatitis? You can see here on the left, the two most frequently prescribed are going to be salicylic acid. It's typically going to represent about 34% of the OTC use will be for salicylic acid. And benzoyl peroxide, or BPO, is about 20% of the use of OTC products. So those are the most frequently used products. There are also obviously some other products that are not used very frequently. For psoriasis and seborrheic dermatitis, again, you have salicylic acid. You have coal tar and a couple other products. I would say salicylic acid probably, again, is the most frequently used product to treat psoriasis, seborrheic dermatitis, and acne. And so we can combine our Spongilla product with any one of these OTC monograph approved products in a kit to treat acne, psoriasis, seborrheic dermatitis. So some of you maybe aren't as familiar with our sponge technology, but it's a freshwater sponge. It has multiple components, actually. Within the sponge, it has this organic matter that has chemical components that are in the sponge. And we've done a lot of in vitro testing on the organic matter to really look at what effects does it have. And we know that it has anti-inflammatory properties, which are very important when you're treating things where you have inflammation. It has antimicrobial properties, so it kills any type of microbes, things like C. acne. And it has effect on reducing sebum. We know that from our phase 2 and phase 3 study, and the feedback we get from physicians and patients, that their skin actually not only gets rid of the inflammatory and non-inflammatory lesions, but starts to look better. It also has these micro needles. They're called spicules. They're very small, microscopic. You wouldn't be able to actually see them in the powder form of the product. They're about 150 to 300 microns in length, which just means they're long enough to penetrate the top layer of skin, the stratum corneum, and actually penetrate into the dermis. That's really important for a number of reasons. Number one, when you have these microchannels, the components within the organic matter, the anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial components, can actually get into the dermis. It also opens up closed comedones. So when you have acne, you have a closed comedone, and you have C. acne, which is the bacteria that causes the inflammatory lesions. And they grow in an anaerobic or without oxygen environment. So when it's closed, you don't have oxygen in there. The spicules actually will open up the closed comedones, allow oxygen to get in. That actually helps kill any type of bacteria or C. acne. It also promotes collagen production. When you rub this onto your face, you're actually, these spicules are penetrating the skin and they're stimulating your skin. You'll slough off your old skin and you'll actually generate new collagen and new skin. So over a period of weeks and months, not only will patients be getting rid of their acne, but they'll also actually improve the look of their skin. And that's really important. Folks might be out there, they've heard about something called microneedling, and it's used to enhance the look of the skin. Well, basically what these spicules are microneedling. And so you've got all these positive effects of anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial effects, but you also have the microneedling effect of the Spongilla, which is why we saw such great results in our phase 2B and phase 3 study. So the strategic transition, really we have all this science about Spongilla. We know it works, and we know combining it with an OTC approved acne product, whether that's salicylic acid or benzoyl peroxide, will have an even more effective acne kit. And we'll be able to build consumer credibility not only through the OTC approved product, but through all of the science we have on our Spongilla technology. It's going to be once weekly dosing. Again, there's nothing else out there. All the OTC products that are out there for acne are either once or twice a day. And that typically is going to lead to poor compliance. Once a week's easy. You can do it Sunday night before you go to bed. You're done for the entire week. And then we have the ability, as I mentioned earlier, to expand the portfolio and develop kits for things like psoriasis, seborrheic dermatitis, et cetera. And then last thing is the go-to-market focus. Certainly, we're able to go directly to consumers. They don't have to have prescription, they don't have to have insurance. They can order directly off our website. It'll be very easy for them. So the acne kit, I mentioned before, we expect to launch our acne kit middle of next year. The things we talk about really and why we think the acne kit's going to be successful is the frequency of treatment. I mentioned all the OTC products are once or twice a day. We're once weekly application. When you're dealing with teenagers or even kids in their 20s, typically compliance is going to be a bit of an issue. And if you have to do something once or twice a day, typically you're not going to do it every day. Versus once a week's easy to remember. You just do it before you go to bed, Saturday night or Sunday night. You're good for the entire week. The second thing is time to treatment effect. We know that typically you're going to see effect after 1 or 2 treatments. That's really a motivator for anybody that has acne to continue to use the product. Whereas the typical products that are on the market now, whether that's salicylic acid, benzoyl peroxide, or retinoid like adapalene, they're typically going to take about 6 to 8 weeks before you really start to see an effect on your acne lesions. And that leads to poor compliance. Not only that, but tolerability is a big issue. If you ask anybody that's used benzoyl peroxide or adapalene, what they're going to tell you is, my skin's very dry, I get peeling, I get burning, I get stinging, and I get redness or erythema. And I get that every time I apply the product, which is once or twice a day. So you see a lot of the tolerability issues, but they don't see an effect on their acne lesions for maybe a month or 2. And that's what leads to really poor compliance and consumers jumping around from one product to another, trying to find something that really works. We know with our product, we have really good tolerability. When you rub our product on, you get a little bit of transitory erythema or redness. It lasts a few hours. We usually tell any type of patient or consumer, do it before you go to bed. When you get up in the morning, you'll be fine. And then you get a little bit of what I would say is kind of tingling. And the tingling on your face really just is the spicules that are penetrated into the dermis. And that just tells a patient that the product's working. And that typically is going to last about a day. The spicules will slough off after a day and the tingling will be gone. So what's important is obviously having an OTC kit, brand name, all those things, but it's also important to make sure that we protect it. And we have a number of issued patents. In the US, we have an issued patent for Spongilla in combination for treatment of acne. And we also could use our product in combination with a botulinum toxin, potentially to treat a number of diseases. We have patent protection for hyperhidrosis. We know that using our product with botulinum toxin, we can deliver the toxin topically to block sweat production in hyperhidrosis, but also the potential to use it with botulinum toxin to improve the look of the skin, reducing fine lines, wrinkles, pore size, those types of things. And then even probably more importantly, since this is a freshwater sponge, is we do have an exclusive supply agreement with our supplier who's been doing this for about 25 years. They currently can harvest and process about 30 metric tons of product. That's plenty of product for us, knowing that we're going to have about 1 gram of product for each treatment, or 4 grams in a one month kit. And then we have excellent cost of goods. We expect to have gross margins in the 80% range. So very good overall cost of goods, good margins with a once weekly acne kit. So with that, let me go to look at the questions. Here we go here. So first question, how does your once weekly dosing compare with daily treatment in terms of outcome? So we know through our phase 2B and phase 3 study, we get around 40% of the patients will actually get to what's called clear or almost clear, which basically means their acne's gone, or they might have 1 or 2 small lesions. And that's with once weekly treatment of just Spongilla. We're going to now have a kit where we're going to combine Spongilla with also a OTC approved acne product. We think we'll get as good of results or maybe even better. And if you compare that to, let's say, salicylic acid by itself or benzoyl peroxide, you're going to typically see maybe about half the efficacy, even though they're once a day or twice a day treatment. So we're going to have better efficacy, better tolerability, in a once weekly treatment compared to any of the OTC treatments that are out there. Okay, let me go to the second question. Are there partnerships in place with major retail chains, e-commerce platforms, and convenience stores? Not currently. We're just making this strategic shift right now, doing a lot of market research with consumers, really to understand how do we brand this, where is the white space, where do we fit in? I think initially we would expect to launch this direct to consumer using things like TikTok, Instagram, influencers, either just skin influencers, but also influencers that might be highly respected dermatologists, estheticians, that will be able to talk about our product, how to use our product, and the advantages of our product. So that's the way we're going to start. I think as we move forward, maybe in the second year, we'll start to look at, as we grow sales, to move into things like retail stores, et cetera. Okay, let me go to the third question. What are the main regulatory milestones or hurdles remaining for Dermata's OTC portfolio under the FDA OTC monograph system? That's a good question. There are actually no hurdles for us. The OTC products are already approved for acne. We're going to combine an approved OTC product with our Spongilla product in a acne kit, and then we'll be able to directly launch it. We're developing that kit right now. We're getting ready to do all the branding and so on, packaging. That's all being done right now. If we had the packaging done and the branding done, the brand name, we could launch this tomorrow. But we're in the process of doing that. We're building the kit right now, and then we expect that sometime around probably March, April, we'll start the manufacturing of the kit and look to launch the kit middle of next year. So there's really nothing we need to do from a approval from the FDA standpoint. Are there any specific regions or demographics being prioritized for the rollout? I think initially we'll focus on the US market. The nice thing is that there are companies out there certainly that are 3PL distribution companies that can distribute products throughout many territories in the world. I know Mary Fish, who I mentioned before, who's CEO of Color Science, they have probably 25 or 30 distributors that they use to distribute their Color Science products throughout many territories in the world. We want to stay pretty focused. As I mentioned before, there are 50 million people in the US that have acne. We want to stay focused right now in the US, initially in the rollout, but certainly down the road, the ability to use distributors to get to other territories, we think will allow us to grow even more rapidly as we get into the second and third year. Let me see here. Can you speak, your capital position needs to support this product rollout? Yeah, we currently have cash that lasts us into the second quarter of next year. So at some point, we will need to do a small raise, but nothing compared to what we would have had to do had we moved through the prescription side of the business, developing doing another phase 3 study. The other thing that we have the ability to do now, because we'll be generating revenue and ultimately be profitable, is we can have a combination of equity and debt in order to be able to develop or generate the cash we need to launch this product successfully. Let me see here, one more question. What US and global market trends are driving demand for novel over-the-counter acne and psoriasis treatments? So I think in the over-the-counter market, what's really driving it is patients are looking for unique products, right? They're looking for natural products, and they're looking for products that are effective. And I say that kind of tongue-in-cheek, but benzoyl peroxide, BPO, salicylic acid, they've been out there for 20, 30 years as OTC products. Most patients have tried these products and they don't work that well. adapalene, which is a retinoid, actually was approved as an OTC product in 2016. So it's been out there almost 10 years. So most patients have tried these products. They're not that effective. They have a lot of tolerability issues. So patients are really I'm looking for a product that's natural, that is very effective, and doesn't cause my skin to peel, burn, get red, etc. Every day. And so we think we've got a product that fits the things that folks are looking for. And I think they don't even know to think about a once weekly treatment, because that option is not out there for them. But we know that once they see that they can treat themselves with a once weekly acne kit, this will be something they'll really want to use, because we know it's going to be very effective for them. And even when they get rid of their acne, it's going to continue to improve the look of their skin, because it causes turnover of your dead skin and stimulates new collagen production. Again, like I said, it's almost like a microneedling, which many patients will go in to estheticians or dermatologists to get microneedling to improve the look of your skin. So we think ultimately it'll initially be used for treating acne, but it potentially could be used down the road to just improve the look of the skin. Let me see if I have any other questions here. How does Dermata Spongylla technology for topical dermatology differ in mechanism and benefits for traditional once daily acne treatments? I think basically most of the acne products have usually one effect. They either block sebum production, they're antibiotics that will kill the C. acne, but acne is multi-pronged disease, and it's inflammation, it's bacteria, it's a lot of different things. And as I mentioned early in our presentation, when we did the in vitro testing of our Spongylla product, what we found is that the organic matter has antimicrobial properties, anti-inflammatory properties, anti-sebum properties, all those things in the organic matter. And then the spicules actually have that microneedling effect that open up closed comedones, allow oxygen to get in to help kill the C. acne, and it also stimulates collagen production and turnover of your dead skin. So there are a lot of things that this product will do, and combine it with an OTC approved acne product will just improve the overall efficacy of the product. I think that's it. My time's just about up. Let me see if there's any other questions. One more question. How does Dermata's direct-to-consumer approach enable broader patient access and reduce cost barriers compared to prescription dermatology models? A couple things. Number one, we'll be able to sell directly from our website. Patients can get online. Obviously, young patients that we're targeting in their teens, 20s, or even their 30s spend a lot of time on social media. They're very adept at moving around. They listen to influencers. So there are a lot of ways for us to target these young people that spend a lot of time on social media. When you think about the prescription market, not only do we have to do all the way through to get NDA approval, but then you have to get insurance reimbursement. Insurance companies make it very hard for products to get reimbursed. They really force patients to go on one or two OTC or generic products before they can get on a branded product. And then obviously, a part of the pricing of prescription pharmaceuticals is knowing that when you try to get on a formulary insurance and a PBM, you're going to have to give big discounts, 40, 50% discounts. So the pricing starts much higher. The most recently approved RX acne products are priced at about $500 a month. And we know we're going to be able to price much more attractively so a patient can actually either pay for it out of pocket, or if they or their parent have an HSA plan, they can use that too. So it's going to be easier access, lower cost for the patient, and still we're going to be able to get around 80% gross margin. So it'll be very profitable for Dermata. So with that, I know my time's up. I'd like to thank you all for the questions. And if there's any additional questions, please submit them, and I can actually reach out individually to you. Thank you, and have a great day. Bye-bye.